It is exactly 11 o'clock South African time, meaning it's time for conversations with eminent women. A very good morning to you, the Eminent Women congregation. We are gathered once again to have a lovely conversation with another eminent woman, a woman in leadership, and a woman in politics once again this week. My name is Tshego Moagi, and we are together for the next 50, 55 minutes, hour or so that we can get to know Karabo Khakhau better. Yep, you know that name. She is the Democratic Alliance's national spokesperson, and she's going to just unpack some reflections from her and get to know her slightly better. But you know what? That comment section is open for you, so please do drop your questions for Karabo, and also any comments that you may have on what she may say today. You are more than welcome, please, to engage with us as well. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is Conversations with Eminent Women. We do this every week, where we speak to women that are making a difference in South Africa in one form or another. So would love to hear from you as well in the comment section, questions that you may have for Karabo, comments that you have for her as well, and the kind of spokesperson that she actually has been for the Democratic Alliance. They were at some point the DA, the opposition party nationally. Now they are part of the government of national unity, but in some spaces they are still seen as the main opposition party. Karabo Khakhau joining us now right here on Conversations with Eminent Women. Karabo, good afternoon. Good morning. Wow, good morning. Welcome to the conversations.
It's an afternoon somewhere, Birimarung. So I forgive you 100%. Good morning, Circle. Good morning to the Conversations with Eminent Women congregation. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited to be here.
Please, thank you so much. I know that your time is very precious. I know that you're a very busy woman, so we truly appreciate you part of being of our conversations today. Of course, Karabo has got in her background the Democratic Alliance because that's where we know her from. But before we even get to that point, Karabo, let us speak about Karabo, the young girl, the little girl. Where do you come from? You come from Welkom, of course, but give us a little bit about your upbringing, before we even get into how you got into politics.
So, according to my mother, who's the person that gave birth to me, I was born on the 27th of June, 1997, between 12 and half past 12, Motshehare. Oh God, you found that photo? Ha. So I was born in 1997, raised by my late grandmother and my late uncle. Um, Kara, Orange Grufu, Tabong, Valcomo. When my grandmother fell ill when I was in grade four, I then moved to go live permanently with my mom so that we are able to take care of my grandmother. And my uncle sadly passed away when I was in grade nine. That would be 2012. And then my late grandmother passed on God 2020. So the two people who raised me, who I refer to as actually my mom and my dad, ke mama le papa, are no more. My mother, she's my mother, she gave birth to me, but she's pretty much the somewhere between the father and the big sister or an aunt slash something of that sort. But she's mommy. I was raised by those three powerful human beings. I come from a family of matriarchs, very powerful women, where men come after us. That's the family that I come from. My mom is a single parent by choice and by design. My mom never wanted to get married. She just wanted to have me. And she happened to stumble on a man who, in her view, had good enough genes to live with for the rest of her life. And so my father, I refer to him as the man whose sperm is responsible for fertilizing my mom's egg, simply because he pretty much wanted to play no role, meaningful role in my life, even though he lives a 5 minute drive away from my mother's house. So ke tseba ha hae le kerekeng ke a mo tseba. So it's pretty much ho teng karabelo kwamo, but he's one of those men who pretty much don't take the responsibility of being in part of bophelo ba their offsprings. And it doesn't really bother me because I'm loved. I've been loved as a child, and I never lacked the direction and the warmth of a man in my life. And thanks to my late uncle, who did an excellent job at loving me and showing me the beauty of what a man can be, which I see now actually in my partner that I have. I refer to him as my late uncle's twin, actually. Not only do they look alike, which is spooky sometimes, but even their mannerisms are very shadily the same. At some point when I met him, I was like, did you resurrect and come to be my boyfriend? What happened? This is so weird. But so yeah, that's Karabo. Karabo went to primary school at Reitsbach Primary School. And then she went to high school at Hoërskool Gymnasium, Welcome Gymnasium. Matriculated 2015, went to go study at the University of Cape Town, spent 3 years there from 2016 till 2019, got sworn in as South Africa's youngest ever member of the provincial legislature in 2019 on behalf of the Democratic Alliance in the Free State. I served the 3 years of that 5 year term there, and then the remainder of that term I spent in the National Assembly, which I've been re-elected to come serve in now. And I am the DA's national spokesperson and the deputy spokesperson on higher education and training on behalf of the DA. Yeah, so that's just a quick summary. I think everything else you'll ask and I'll give a response, but that's Karabo. Karabo ke ngwana na Mosotho. Karabo is a Christian. Karabo ke moprofeta. Karabo ke ngaka.
All right. And we're going to unpack every part, right, of who Karabo is. I want to start off with your name. Karabo Lerato Khakhau.
Yes.
Your mom, like you said, she wanted to, she wanted just you. She didn't want to get married, she just wanted her baby girl. Do you think
Yeah.
that's why also she gave you the names that she gave you? Because they are so profound now when you share your story.
Yeah, so one is hers, the other is an ancestral name. I'll explain it quickly to you. So my mom, Mpitsa Karabo, she named me Karabo when she always knew she wanted a baby girl. She prayed for a baby girl, and poof came baby girl. And so when she found out that she was pregnant, she literally ran to her mom to be like, yo, apparently Karabo is here. And so that has been a name that has already been waiting for me. As far as Lerato, I come from a lineage of Baprofeta mostly, leading out on my mother's father's side of the family. And so when I was born, my mom's grandmother, who is her mom's mom, had already passed, was already late. So my grandmother had a dream, obviously, of her mom telling her that her daughter's gonna have a baby girl with the clear instruction that that baby girl must be must be named Lerato. So that's where my Lerato name comes from. It comes from my mother's mother's mother, who appeared in a dream to my mother's mother to tell me that my mother is gonna have me and that my mother must name me Lerato. Yeah.
Wow, that is beautiful. And thanks for sharing. Really love that. I do want us to then speak about Buprofita, but before we get to that, how did you get into politics? Because I mean, at your age, like you say, the youngest member, you're actually the youngest member, if I'm not mistaken, either in Parliament, in the National Assembly right now. So how did you actually get into politics?
Mm. So I am no longer the youngest. In the previous administration, towards the end, I was the youngest female parliamentarian in the National Assembly. There was somebody who was my exact age mate in the NCOP. Now, in this administration, there is somebody younger than me. There's I think by the Patriotic Alliance, Liam was also younger than me, and he also left to the Patriotic Alliance. But yeah, so I am amongst the youngest, but I am serving my second term at 28. It's funny because I love my job and I do it to the best of my ability. People think this was a job of choice, but I keep maintaining that my involvement in politics was a calling for me, and this is how it happened. It's a very long story. Let me just make it quick. Karabo grew up in high school. I used to debate. I used to represent my school provincially and the province nationally on the Saki debating championships. So I was always seen as that girl who has an opinion on anything and everything,
Mhm.
status quo. But Karabo wanted to become a chartered accountant. Karabo was a top 10 girl, honors blazer, prize giving, she's there. So we were expecting that at the very minimum, Karabo will get minimum of 4 distinctions at the end of her matric, yeah. I applied to UCT. UCT says, yes, when I CASA, Hozala, we want you. But then you obviously know at an institution, you have to put on 2 options. So
Mhm.
the second option I put there, politics, philosophy, and economics. And strictly because my economics and English teachers, Juffrou de Klerk and Juffrou Sevenster, played a very huge role in shaping that thought, right? So what de Klerk used to do in class was we would have like a round robin discussion about what do you think Tsego's going to be when they grow up. So kaofela ka classing would have a reflection of based on what you project and what we see. This is what we think you're going to be growing up. And unanimously, everybody was always like, Karaba's going to be a politician. And I was like, what? Those people are corrupt. What do you mean? Me? You want me there? I ain't going there. My English teacher was also very clear that she sees me as a politician. So because I was clear, nah, as a 90%, 98% accounting student, I want to become a chartered accountant. It's like, okay, just for control, I'll put that as option number 2. UCT comes back to me, says, provisionally, your marks are great. We're going to love to have you. Fast forward to January 2016, and my matric results come back looking horrific. And nothing traumatic happened in December. Nothing changed. Nah, I aced my exams in my understanding. But they came back. Karaba got 1 distinction in life orientation.
Oh my word.
Everything else is shocking. It's bad. I think my total average was 72% when you take all of everything else. And I was like, what? I was just so depressed that whole day. So obviously UCT comes back and is like, yes, shutha kambanga kahle Kelly. You can't be a chartered accountant, but also we can't have you study politics, philosophy, and economics because the mathematics requirements for accounting and economics are the same. But Hozage, you can come, Kloho, your bags are not that built, marks are not that bad. So we'll find you space there in humanities. Come register. And I'm clear to my mom because I was clear that I want to go study at UCT strictly because I've always maintained I wanted to go to Africa's best or leading institution of higher learning, which UCT was undeniably the one at the time of my matriculation. So Kafihla UCT, I register, I call my mom. I was standing outside Jemmy Plaza, actually. I remember at the time, it's now called Sarah Bartman Hall. I called, I'm like, yo, I have registered for politics, philosophy, and industrial sociology. And she's like, yeah, you have 3 years to go in and out because you down shocked everybody. Nobody was expecting to be paying for your studies. But since I am a smart mom and responsible and I've always wanted you, I have money to take you to school, but you got 3 years to get in and out. I'm like, sharp, we'll see where this thing goes. And at this point, I'm now flirting with the idea of HR, right? Because I have no time to bridge the gap because my mom has said I have 3 years. By
Mhm.
the end of that year, in all my sociology and politics and governance lectures, I am here asking questions, contesting ideas that are presented by lecturers, poking ideas about theories and all of those things. And then this angel, I regard him an angel. His name is Jodeshan Parsons, reaches out to me after one lecture. He was part of the DASO executive at the time, and he's like, Chomi. And I'm like, hello, Chomi. Listen, I've been listening to you in class and everything, and I like you. And I think when you're on board, I'm like, all right, thank you. Thank you very much. And he's like, but have you heard of the SRC? And I'm like, what's that? I don't know, man, Chomi, like the prefects at school. I'm like, oh, are they called SRC here at uni? That, like, the way I was so aloof. And he's like, yeah, I think you would make a great SRC rep. And I'm like, oh, why? And then he explains it. And I'm like, okay, so, all right, but I haven't thought that far, but I wouldn't just jump in. So I need to make sense of this. And he's like, but also I think you would be an excellent DASO candidate. I'm like, why DASO? And it's like, no, man, I hear you talk and your ideology is pretty much a copy and paste of who we are and what we stand for as an organization. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's like, but I won't rush you. Come to our events. I'll give you material to read and see if my assessment is true. And I'm like, okay. So I start getting involved. I read up because what I knew leaving Velcom of Free State was that the ANC was never an option. Status quo didn't make sense for me. Government was a mess. But what I hadn't elevated my thinking towards was what the alternative was
Mhm.
until Jody came. Started reading up, I'm like, and then evaluating performance in government, all of those things. And all I know is that by the second semester, I was dick within DASO. Pretty much there, I became the first. So remember, it was Fees Must Fall happened 2016. So roads fell in 2015 at UCT. 2016, we had Fees Must Fall. The first day of SRC campaigning, I was campaigning for, there were three of us, I remember, and it was one of the society reps, or I can't remember the portfolio properly. And first day of campaigning, there was a shutdown. We weren't able to shut down. At the end of that year, there was a leadership vacuum. Karabo took over as branch chairperson. And so that meant we didn't have an SRC election. The elections happened in April. I said this is a very long story. I'm going to try to really, really get at the mess. So the we didn't have an election until the interim elections in, I think, April or March. So at the time, the provincial leader of the Western Cape was Ndate Bonginkosi Madikizela, and they were like, and my constituency head was Phumzile van Dam. And they said, no, let's contest these elections. I was like, not in my house. We're not going to win these elections. It makes absolutely no sense. Let's go back to the ground. Let's regroup. Let's revitalize. If I don't win you the elections the next round, then you can have a chat with me. But I am pretty much going to give it my all and I'll win you the SRC at the end of the year. We rolled, we moved, we ran a HOPSA campaign, a Help Our Fellow Students Out campaign, and to help fundraise for funding for financially excluded students. And at this point, I was clear that I wasn't pro the approach of Fees Must Fall. And let it be clear, unapologetically. In democratic South Africa, given the fiscal constraints that we have, it makes no sense to put Johan Rupert's grandchild, myself as Karabo Khakhau, who's been a teacher since 1992, who's a mother to only myself, and Ntemo wa Nkgono Mathabo, who ha ba sebetse habo on the same competing scale for funding. Johan Rupert's grandchildren must be paid by Ntate wa hae. Maggie Lena must pay for Karabo's education. She'll only qualify for help if she has three of myself and then obviously Ntamu must get 100% funding. So Fees Must Fall must saying free education for all in our lifetime. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. It makes absolutely no sense, particularly given the confines of the economy. So I'm pushing against Fees Must Fall. I'm like, also shutting down institutions is not the way. If you want to burn something, go burn the union buildings and parliament for effect. But anyway, fast forward, at the end of the year, I mobilized enough support at UCT, run for SRC. We had candidates, all eight of us were voted in. I get the highest votes in the institution, get voted as SRC president. Mind you, I arrived. Nah, I wanted to go become a chartered accountant. So all of these things are happening. And SRC president the next year, Phumzile is like, elections are happening in 2019. You should apply. I'm like, why? But won't give me Zika course. I'm also behind. I'm very behind. I'm busy being a politician in school. I'm behind on course. It's like, no, just apply. You never. And I apply. And little do I know, I get elected as RSA's first youngest ever MPL in the country. And the rest is history. So in a nutshell, I keep saying my involvement in politics and the journey I've traversed, as unique as it is testament of the fact that my involvement in politics is a calling for me, 100%. And the energy I have for it, the embrace I have for it, the things I survive in politics are a testament, honestly, of just, it's a calling. So that's Karamo's involvement in politics.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that because I think it's very important that we also understand how come the Democratic Alliance. I'm sure it's a question that a lot of people ask. You explained that you left Valcom knowing very well that the ANC is not the one. You didn't know of an alternative. And
Mm,
here you find yourself in DASO and part of the Democratic Alliance. Is
yeah.
it, do you think, a decision as much as it was a calling for you that the politics chose you in this instance. But
Mm.
is it, do you think, a decision that was well thought of in this day and age, especially when you look at how people feel about the Democratic Alliance?
I mean, it's an ongoing decision, right? Well, as a politician, you have a responsibility to have an ongoing review of your political vehicle and see whether it's still the most relevant and the most useful and safest for the people of the country. So, like I said, so when Jody approached me, the question wasn't just go hodaso and we'll figure it out. The question was, I'll give you the material of the organization. You read up on their values and principles, read up on their policies, look up their track record. And beyond the material I'm giving you, do your own research on whether my assessment of who you are is true and whether you also understand that to be true yourself.
Mhm.
And so I did all of that. And I realized I'm a social democrat, but I'm never left, I'm never right, I'm right in the middle, right? I believe that the state must take responsibility 100% of the protection and the advancement of the lives of the people, but equally that people also have human agency and a responsibility upon their own lives that they're supposed to be able to take accountability for, right? And I'm very, very, very clear as a constitutionalist party. The first question I asked, I'm like, okay, I am pro-democracy as a phenomenon, as a philosophy. When you test the constitution of this country, it's very democratic. But when you look at the genesis of democratic ideals, the bedrock there is liberalism. Our constitution is a very liberal constitution. But then the liberalism is found within the center, neither left, neither right, right? And it made 100% sense for me. And as I'm serving as a public representative, now on my sixth year, fetching the 10th officially, 9 years in the Democratic Alliance, I test that time and again, looking at our economic policy, our economic justice policy. Does it make sense? Yes. Is our application of the Constitution and reflected in our policy positions, in our work in government? My answer is yes, all the time. The question that I'm still not at 100% yes of is, have we done enough or to give effect to that? No, there's still a whole lot that we need to do in government where we are in government to give effect to the aspirations of the Constitution. But are we doing it the best way possible? 100%.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Let's take a quick step back then, back into Welkom. You were raised, like you said, by your grandmother, your uncle, and then your mom. Do you have siblings?
I do not have official siblings. I have non-official siblings in the sense, like I explained, that my father, the man whose sperm is responsible for fertilizing my mom's eggs, he has children with his late wife. I think I know of three of them. So I know of those three human beings too that I share blood with them, at least some a version, a percentage in the bloodstream I share with them. But I don't have a relationship with them. I've never met them physically with the cognitive understanding that it was them. I've always known sometimes that the church I went to is the same church that they grew up going to with their mother. So where my mom and my dad met was at school where they both worked, where my mom was a teacher and the father was the principal. Um, and then so you go to church with the same people, but you don't know that those people are your people, right? But yeah, so they exist. I tried reaching out to one when I came here to UCT, and he's mised me since. He lives here in Cape Town with his wife. Beautiful, beautiful family, but they're not interested in having a relationship. The family knows about me. They've known about me even before my little bit of prominence in politics, but they're just not interested.
How does that make you feel?
I don't know. Look, it doesn't, I'm not distraught about it because I'm happy. I'm a very loved child. I have a lot of love in my family. I'm very much appreciated there. It would have been nice to know them, but I'm also not about imposing myself on people. Because I mean, at this age, I'm 28, bro. I've when I reached out to these people, I was in my first year university. 2016, I was 19. So next year will be 10 years of this reaching out game. So I'm like, if in 10 years you haven't been interested in making this thing happen, even after I've reached out to your father multiple times to try to see if, okay, askisi, hey, I understand who you're not as responsible as you project yourself to be, but I'll be lenient with you and afford you an opportunity to step up. And he still rejected it. So I'm like, it's okay. It's fine. I have zero problems.
Let's then speak. You speak about church, and I mean, going to church with people that you kind of know are your people.
Mm.
But there were, when we were going through your social media pages, together with the producer Nyakalo, we saw o apere seaparo sa kereke. Um,
Yeah.
church to be exact. Talk to us about your journey and how God has been part of it. You know, you speak about how you got into politics, your time at UCT, your
Mm.
time in politics now. But how
Mm.
has God been a part of that for you to get to a point where you're like, "Le ke batla ho apara seaparo sa ko kereke."
I was raised ka hara kereke, higher Mawesele at the immediate home, but ka hara family re na le ma St. John, re na le ma Apostola. It's a rich, rich, rich spiritual home. But my late grandmother and my late grandmother ne le Moesele le mme wa Seaparo. My mother ke moreri wa Wesele. Nna ke moretsana Thapelo Wesele. I was robed when I was in matric, actually. I was 18 when I got robed as a member of the Methodist Young Women Prayer and Service Unit. And this has been the case for me since 18. So essentially it's 10 years this year. Yeah, I actually haven't thought about that. So so it was in matric, and obviously first year I moved from Belcomo to UCT here, Cape Town, and immediately found a church, the Rosebank Methodist Church, which has been my spiritual home here in Cape Town. I'm also a member of the choir there. I do re mi fa sol sometimes, depending on how husky the voice is that day. I'm either soprano or alto. And yeah, so God has been part of me. Ke hotse ka hara lelapa le jwalo. And also, like I said, ke hotse ka hara lelapa la baprofeta, those who are more welcoming and open to the calling, those who are less welcome and less opening because of the traffic ivele of the responsibility of that calling, right? So yeah, so I've always been motho a tsamayang kereke, hae re batho ba thapelo. And so spirituality is a big part of who I am. It's pretty much who I am before anything else.
And so, you know, when you then say, you know, lo shapa do re mi fa so, ako re fanyana. Let's have a bit of a
Mm-mm. Uh, when I batla the country in cancel ba re ha ke tsebe bobino, ba tla ke tse di do re mi for what?
I mean, listen to that. Listen to that, Karabo. There's no way that you want us to there's no way that you'll get cancelled for singing, okay? But that is, of course, Karabo Khakhau. She is the Democratic Alliance's national spokesperson, and she's joining us on Conversations with Eminent Women. Remember that you can send through your comments, questions that you may have for Karabo. Let's engage with her as well during this very conversation that we are having. We still have her for a few more minutes, about half an hour or so, as we unpack her life and we unpack, you know, just the role that she's playing in a democratic South Africa today. So, Karabo, you speak about your religious journey, but also coming from a home of Baprofeta, and you yourself, you know, we've seen a photo of you on one of your social media platforms, o apere the attire of Baprofeta. How did that come about? How did that journey then start, you know? And was it a bit of a, I mean, if you're coming from a home of Baprofeta, I suppose it wasn't much of a shock to the system when the underground gang came through to you. But, you
Yeah.
know, just talk to us about how you found that this is the route that you need to be taking and how it's been during this time and how many years actually.
Yeah, so this is something I was born with. It's naturally been a thing, right? So, but I'm a double barrel agent. So, ke mo profeta, ke ngaka at the same time. Naturally, mo profeta, and those who are well versed with taba tsa bo ngaka, you know, hore some you have to take one for the team based on a relegation by others within the family, right? And so yeah, so it's always been a thing. Ke le monyenyana. My mom always tells me stories of how when I was a child, pretty much kindergarten, we would go visit the family somewhere, motho a kulang, and I would walk in ka difela le dithapelo ke kopa batho ba tshele metsi, ke rapelle metsi, motho a nwe metsi a fole hosane, and I'm like, what? That's so weird. I was just a child. What do you mean? So yeah, but it's always been deeply in who I am. But obviously there's a time where things heighten within the journey, right? And this heightened for me between 2019 and last year. I tried to negotiate you try to be a bit, if I've survived for so long, then I can survive for more until obviously shit hit the fan and the gang was like, no, we ain't got no time to waste. You gotta do or die. And yeah, so I officially came to terms with the fact that okay, I have to officialize this thing, do it properly, and be obedient to God's will for my lineage and the lineage's direction for my life, right? And so yeah, and so far it's been a beautiful journey. It's beautiful, it's stressful, particularly the part where you're not in control of at what time do you burp, at what time do you take off your shoes, where. But I love it. And it adds to, for me, I keep saying how I navigate politics again. It makes more sense now that I have accepted the journey to navigate politics as a calling more, but how I navigate my life is enriched by the calling and the blessing bestowed upon me and in my life. And the most rewarding thing for me is my ability to be able to help people out, right? Being able to help people see things and help them resolve issues that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. And that's for me just very beautiful.
Are you practicing?
Yeah,
Okay. Busy schedule. You're practicing
I
as well.
do. But these things are hectic because I can't sit every day because thing every day almost that. So I have to like shui here and there in between. But I don't know how I'm doing it. I sometimes have guilt that I'm not doing it enough. But God knows my heart and God knows my maximum, my minimum, and I'm there. Ke re tla bona motho a Modimo. As long as we're still moving and are able to show up how we are showing up, then that's good.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that part where you say it's difficult because you don't know when to burp. Can you burp? You're with people in a
Mm.
meeting, in a Democratic Alliance meeting, ma'am, where you also have, white people that might not fully understand what you're going through. And
Mm.
recently there was reports of you being reprimanded, you being reprimanded or something happening in a meeting because you needed to sit on the floor because of your calling, right? What
Yeah.
happened?
I don't like talking about this thing because there's so much speculation and gossip about it, and it's like awkward for me, to be honest. So look, we live in a world where South Africa is a very diverse country. So even amongst Black people, not everybody understands these things, right? Particularly, young generation. So for some people, burp as loudly as I do sometimes. It's like, Eli, are you there?
We can hear you, but your line keeps cutting a little bit. Let's try again. Let's keep going.
It's a
Let's.
sign. Yeah. So I don't know if I should change networks. Let me try switch networks.
Try switch and let's see what happens. I mean, that's Karabo Khakhau. She says it's a sign that she shouldn't even be talking
That
about what transpired that particular day.
that
Um,
yes.
yes, that seems to be better, Karabo. Yes, go ahead.
I was saying it's a sign or one you. So the thing is, so even like when I burp as loud as I am, for some people it's like, do you have gastro maybe? Also, surely you can burp better and all of those things. But it's not something that I naturally have a problem with. I don't have discomfort generally, like a thing, like ooh. It's not a thing that I have experienced at all. At all. But Parliament as a space has an expectation of a certain is a standard practice for members of Parliament. So when you're in a meeting, it is odd when everybody's sitting on a chair when not on it is odd when you are in a meeting asking questions in a portfolio committee, and all of a sudden, it's it's not something at Raileng. Whereas actually Parliament is filled with a lot of Dingakaleba Profeta who are just not as visible as I am sometimes. So for me, it's not an issue at all, actually. I don't have issues. I wouldn't say I'm uncomfortable anywhere or I'm an unwelcome anywhere because of it. No.
Okay. And your partner, how has he taken it?
He's such a sweetheart. He's been so supportive. Pre my initiation, post, he's just a heaven sent, super lovely. What I appreciate the most about him is as a Zulu man, he's very well versed with the type of being I am, and he's a very traditional man himself. So it's we're good.
Okay. All right. That is Karabo Khakhau. She's the national spokesperson of the Democratic Alliance, joining us on Conversations with Eminent Women. Look, we are having the honest conversation as well this morning as we get to reflect, and Karabo gets to reflect on her life, but also her journey into political leadership. Karabo, before we go to the comments, I want to ask you the issue, of course, of the Democratic Alliance. And I say that you're national spokesperson, but you are in that position with somebody else, with Willie
Yes.
Okamp.
Oh,
And I
yes.
wonder then, and I know this might be a question that I should actually be asking the leadership, but what was the decision behind there being two national spokespersons this time around within the Democratic Alliance, and how does that sit with you?
So most people don't know that we've always had two national spokespeople. It's just that one has always been more prominent than the other. So you would know that even with my predecessors, Phumzile van Dam, when she was spokesperson alongside Merefile Ntshege, who's in the Gauteng provincial legislature. People outside of the media fraternity mostly didn't know this, or even some inside would forget because there's always sometimes a spokesperson who's louder than the other, or he who's more powerful than the other, or who gets more attention than the other, or whatever. Before, after Phumzile with Solimaladzi, it was Solimaladzi and Celia Brink from Tshwane. When before Brink left Parliament to go to Tshwane, Brink was spokesperson alongside Soli. And after Brink left, his vacancy was filled by Werner Horn, who's now one of the House chairpersons in Parliament for the DA, and who's my provincial chairperson in the Free State. So there's always been two spokespeople. For the first time, it seems that we have two spokespeople who are equally loud, and now people get to see that there are two spokespeople within the party. And the logic has always been that you can't have, because of the work of a spokesperson is so demanding. If I'm ill and there's supposed to be a response or initiation of media interaction, it can't be that there's no interaction at all because I'm sick. Vili is there. If Vili has other commitments that he has, Karabo is here and we're able to share the load. So the decision of the leadership was to always make sure that we have an all hands on deck approach, that there's never a vacuum that is not filled. And also because the work of a spokesperson doesn't come with a staff component that is 100% dedicated to you. The stuff you use, you share with everybody else. So it can wear you out very quickly. So for me, in my view, it's very kind actually for the leadership to have decided, well, let's not put this responsibility on one head. Let's give it to two people because beyond the spokesperson roles, these people are also members of parliament who have their duties to fulfill in parliament. I myself, beyond being a national spokesperson, I serve in a portfolio committee on higher education and training where I focus on issues there too, which I've been focusing on CETAs mostly now. And yeah, so that's the thing about spokespeople that isn't, it's always been there.
The Democratic Alliance gets criticized quite a lot, Karabo, when it comes to the way that they are doing politics in this government of national unity. And they are seen sometimes as being opposition parties, as speaking as though they are not part of the GNU when it comes to when we speak nationally now, right? Where it seems like you speak as still an opposition party. And I mean, we've heard political analysts going on to say that the DA is forgetting that they are now part of government, that they are not excluded from government. When you hear those kind of words, what does it say to you as a Democratic Alliance national spokesperson? But also, what does it say to you about the way that things are being addressed by the DA within Parliament when you are actually part of government?
So let's first get one thing right. The DA's participation in the GNU doesn't mean a nullification of our independence as a political party. It also doesn't mean that we cease to have a constituency that we have a responsibility to communicate to and on their behalf. When we joined the GNU, we knew very well that these are political parties that have never worked together nationally. The largest and the second largest have been in opposition of each other for as long as Democratic South Africa. So by design, it was not going to be easy. So this means going into the GNU, when there are decisions that are put on the table or that are shoved down our throats or sought to be the case, our job is not to keep quiet, Tshego. Our job is to say no and disagree. So let's take VAT, for example. VAT, Godongwana decides on his own, without consultation, that he's going to he wants to tax South Africans more in this economy, in Cyril's economy. The DA's deputy minister in Treasury makes it clear from the onset, oh, no, this doesn't make sense. Let's draw. I have a framework that I can help propose. Let's draw it together and see where we can find each other. Godongwana misers, no, you're not going to tell me that. Nah, I want to increase VAT, I would increase VAT. Howing. And we obviously like, no, we can't agree. And we try multiple ways to try to negotiate around this, and the negotiating table is not happening. So we're sticking to our guns here to say this is not the right decision, as we should actually, because like in any partnership, you don't agree to everything if there's a good reason not to agree to it. And so because the conversations within government weren't working, we were left with no other choice but to go to court. And it is because of the court action that we learned that South Africans are now not taxed more as far as VAT is concerned. Had we shut up and said, okay, in the spirit of peace, we're going to choose peace over the interest of the people of this country, where would we have been as a country, right? This happens with multiple things. So the biggest discomfort here is this, that because we've been such an effective opposition for so long, our communication is one of the strongest communications across political parties. We've mastered the machinery of communicating our dislikes and our likes on anything, irrespective of whether it is VAT, whether it's BE, whether it's expropriation without compensation, whether it's BELA. And also the fundamental role of a political party beyond gathering votes is being able to effectively communicate to its voters. So it is unfair and ludicrous, actually, I might say, for anyone to expect the Democratic Alliance to be mute as a political party and not say anything to anyone simply because we are in government. What would help, however, which is what we've been saying all along, which is what we said in the first press briefing of this year in January, was to hit a reset button in conflict resolution within the GNU in how we engage with each other. The ANC doesn't want to talk much. And in some cases, when we agree to talk, you would have Helen and Ntate Mbalula supposed to meet. One doesn't honor a meeting. How are we supposed to run a government like that? You have the clearinghouse mechanism that is supposed to be a safe space to ventilate conflict or ventilate issues. It doesn't work really because the ANC doesn't want to share power. Essentially, there was never a mind where, okay, we want to do this together. It's an issue of, okay, we don't have the numbers to do it alone. So let's get numbers to give us the power to do what we want and just move on. And then it becomes odd when we say, but you can't do things alone because you're not alone in government. So it should be something that we must be honest about the fact that you do have other political parties that disagree, but they're not as loud as we are. And so the question shouldn't be, should the DA disagree or not? No, we should certainly disagree with things we do not agree with because we're supposed to share power. And we're supposed to operate as per the statement of intent on the basis of a sufficient consensus that says that we do nothing unless 60% of the partners in the GNU agree, and the only two parties that make up that 60% are the DA and the ANC. The question should be, how do we disagree in a more healthy way moving forward? Which is to make sure that all parties are able to put in a concerted effort in conflict resolution. And we're still standing asking to say, we want to be able to resolve things. Let's resolve things. Don't run away from the problem and then call us radicals which are 1 foot in, 1 foot out by being honest about where we stand about everything.
Karabo Khakhau is the Democratic Alliance's national spokesperson. Karabo, have you ever been criticized on how you speak? Not necessarily what you say, because it may be true, but on how it is said. I'm just thinking also about the national dialogue recently and what was said there. Like I say, not what was said, how it was said. Have you ever been criticized on that? And do you take a step back and say, okay, I might have been a bit rude or a bit harsh on this matter in how I approached it or how I delivered it?
Yeah, I'm accused of being too spicy. I'm accused of being colorful in my presentation of things. And it's something I take because I do a whole lot of reflection with my therapist, with my friends, with my family, with my partner, with my political party about how do I best communicate and represent what it is that we stand for in a way that doesn't also misrepresent myself as an individual. But what's awkward here is so there's a thin line between honesty and rudeness, and it's extra hard when you are as young as I am, where the job that I do there are not many people like who are my age. And the people I have to hold accountable are all older than me. There's not a single human being that I have to hold accountable that's younger than me that appears before me within Parliament. And so and that's why I try my level best to be respectful in how I present. What's awkward is you would be saying the honest truth to say, but you shouldn't be doing something like this. The sternness by some is revered and it's honored and people appreciate it. But there's always going to be that one person who says, no, but ke motho a moholo, respect him. Like, so it's very difficult to judge because even when you receive the review, from the public on how you engage. Majority of the reviews I receive is that you strike a healthy balance between being stern and holding people accountable and standing your ground and communicating sharply on what your political party represents, and respect as a Black African child. So I don't know. Let me ask you, Tshego, do you have criticism for me and how I say things?
I feel like I'm asking the questions here today.
No, but I think it's a good opportunity for me to find out, actually, now that you brought it up. What do
I
you think?
think there can be times when it comes across as quite rude, but like you say, there's the respect thing because there are people in parliament where they are much older than you are. And then people would say, but you need to respect your elders. So I think maybe sometimes we tshwara hanyane fela.
Okay, give me a practical example that I'm able to use and honestly reflect on. Because like I said, like it's difficult to judge sometimes because when Tshego is saying this, there's Ntabi saying, but you are still maintaining respect. How are you supposed to say it with the authority it deserves without forgetting hore motho ke motho a moholo? So give
Look,
me
I'm trying
the
to think
give
of a
me the
practical
practicality.
example. I'm trying to think of and I can't come up with something now, but I do think I agree with the sense that you do have moments where you definitely are stern. Let's put it like that. You're stern, in what you say and perhaps in how you say it. I just think there are moments where we cringe a little bit, in how things are
Yeah.
done. Not necessarily that what you're saying is
Like,
wrong or that it is right, but it's just the
yeah,
cringe
the
worthiness of.
way.
the way.
For
Yes.
example, like not in your house, mama, for example, is that an example?
Karabo. I mean, you know your own
What's that?
examples, Sam.
So I wanted to reflect on this because I watched that video so many times, ne? And you would have seen my response was I didn't think I didn't think about that thing because I heard we're having a conversation about your performance and your responsibility at an institution. The first question I'm asking you, you are completely not here. You're not in the house. You're not where we are about the question I'm asking. Still calm and collected, and we're coming back to the second one. I would say it's directly zoning in into your field of expertise. We're talking about computers, and you're asking me computers where? Okay, at school, mama. I could have said at school, mama, instead of being the natural spicy Karabo to say, hi, sis, kolong kae he motho a Modimo?" Kae?
Yeah.
Because re bua ka ntle ho number. And I take that. I really take it. But batswadi le bona, really honestly, batswadi must do better because they compromise us. Because what do you mean where? What are you asking?
Yeah, and then
But
when
I
you
take
say what you're asking, that is also seen as rude, right?
That's
That's a bit.
rude because I'm young. Had somebody her age said that, it's fine. But I'm like, where are we? And this is the complexity of being young in politics because somebody somewhere is forever reminding you, "Horo Munyanyana," but my title is not 28 years old. As a member of parliament, my responsibility is to represent the people of the Republic of South Africa without fear of intimidation of age, right? And I try in how I regard you. I can't regard you as Ulitse, usually people ke ba bitsa bo ausi le bo men, they come back and they tell me, no, I ke ausi, I give me, ke monyenyana. And I'm like, I try by all means. But I 100% take your point. Instead of saying not in your house, mama, I will say at school, mama.
Thank you for taking my point. Let's take a look at some of the comments that we have received. It's 11:52 and we need to start winding down and wrapping up our conversation with Karabo Khakhau. She is the Democratic Alliance's national spokesperson. We are being asked here, what has been the biggest challenge as a young woman in politics?
Yo, the biggest challenge would have been my period pains. It would have been before they stabilized post my surgery. It was
Mhm.
always a hard explaining how every month I'm sick. Every month I am not okay. And I would say I'm coming somewhere, but I'm not coming because of these things, and it's easily seen as a happy-go-lucky approach to work and a commitment, which is a struggle that many women have, particularly those who struggle with endometriosis, cysts, and a whole lot of period pain irregularities, which is something that we must be able to be honest about across workspaces to understand that even though we are expected and should be able to show up in the same way as male-bodied beings are, that naturally sometimes biologically it's not possible, and that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us as women, but it means that physiologically it's not possible all the time. But on a serious note, the biggest challenge for me was like I came into parliament very young. I'm still very young. I was 21, turning 22 when I took up my oath to serve. This is my second term. And the biggest stress for me has been what we just spoke about now, not in your house, mama. Being able to make it known that yes, I'm young, I sound young, I sound a particular way, which can be, if you don't know me, might sound like I'm a coconut or something, uh, but that my work is serious, that my femininity and my youth are not a weakness. If anything, they are a strength that are worthy of respect because of the nature of politics and as a game. Those things are easily seen as deterrence of trust and deterrence of more than a motivation for trust and a motivation for respect.
Mhm. Let's take more comments on Conversations with Eminent Women's YouTube page, where we are getting quite a few comments from people. And Tatisi says, why is it that as young Africans in workplace, we are in higher positions? We always have to be more respectful to our subordinates who are older than us by age when it comes to disciplining. And that's what you're saying as well, that it's difficult, when you are in a particular position and you're younger and you're expected to have the respect, for the older person. So is it disciplining them or reprimanding them when it comes to work issues? Tatisi goes on, why can't work issues be dealt with efficiently by being professional on both sides if a person is disciplined?
It's true. 100%. I take Ntatiti's point, and source of frustration of classic note 101, because like I say, as a member of parliament, my job is to hold the executive accountable and to make sure that I safeguard how the state's money is used to advance the best interests of the people of this country. And so it doesn't matter whether you are 65 and supposed to be retired, perhaps, or whether you are 34, working in a government office. If you are saying, I will accept the salary, you should be able to accept that you are going to then be expected to roll out your duties responsibly and most effectively. And in cases where that is not the case, then you should be able to receive the scrutiny that you have. The issue is that, and this is the thing about African politics, that and it's even more patriarchal than anything, because when a Black boy or man my age asks questions, they come with more authority than when they are asked by myself, naturally, because there's an assumption, yeah, there is more leadership there than there is leadership here on my end. And it shouldn't be. We must be able to disabuse ourselves from the notion that if you are Black, young, and powerful, that your ability to stay on point and have your finger on the pulse means that you're disrespectful. Unless, of course, you're a disrespectful human being and rude to the core, which I don't regard myself as.
All right, 11:57, Conversations with Eminent Women. Two more questions from my side, Karabo. Let's start off with who inspires you in politics? Who do you look up to
In politics,
in
South
politics?
Africa, our land, who inspires me.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say Helen Ziller?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I do. Forget that she's white and forget that she's 74. She is a force to be reckoned with. There are not many female politicians in this country that have been able to achieve and survive what that woman has, transcending every box, from journalism to opposition to in government, internally and externally within political parties. That for me, forget that she's a white woman. For me, I think if Helen was a Black woman, the country would love her more. But because of the history of ourselves as a political party, this country is still unable to give recognition to the fact that without Helen's work as a journalist during apartheid South Africa, we probably would have never known what happened to Steve Biko's death. And we downplay those things because she's white, right? But if she were Black, we would have a celebration of that. The awards internationally won for the work done in government as both mayor and premier of the Western Cape, if they were received by Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, we wouldn't be having a conversation. But because they are received by a white woman, given our history as a country, we have a problem. So me as a human being, from girl to girl, boob to boob, I realized that, and I want to be a better version of her, of course, and she knows this, and I've told her this. But I look up to her. I struggle to look up to many people in politics. Let me tell you why. Because the stalwarts of politics or heavyweights of politics are all rested within the ANC. And because that's the most prominent political party we've had. You look up to one person today, tomorrow there's a scandal or an embroilment and corruption. It takes everything away. Do you understand? So it's for me as a Black child, it's very difficult for me to look at one person in government who's been in leadership, who's still alive, and be like, you are great and you are amazing, because we don't have such in this country. We have seen powerful women choosing loyalty to political parties over the interests of this country, and therefore our ability to judge their feminism and judge their leadership is boxed into this representation of a political party and an inability to be honest about things that would compromise your political party. So that's that. So, and since childhood, I've always been clear that for me, my role model is the best version of myself. So who I want to be is who I imagine to be the dream Karabo as the vision board. That's who I look up to.
Mhm. Let's then quickly wrap up, Karabo. My last question to you, perhaps two in one questions. One, what is next for Karabo Khakhau? I know that you are serving your second term within the DA and the National Assembly, but what is next for you? And also, where do you see South African politics going moving forward?
What's next for Karabo is what God wills for Karabo. My God and my ancestors will for me to be part of my journey in politics. The calling that I have accepted is what I'm happy to receive and go to. I wake up every day and I put my best foot forward with everything in representing the people of this country. I fight hard in higher education. I fight hard to communicate in my party's position because I believe it's the best position in most cases as far as what is in the best interest of this country is concerned. And so yeah, so let's see. What's next is for me to finish this term, but what's next is to be able to see more robust, healthy, and less stifled engagements in holding the executive accountable in Parliament. What's next is the 19th of September, Buti Manamela is appearing before Parliament to explain how the hell did he come up with Bontate Baobale Bararo as his choice of administrators for CETAs. That's what's next, and I'm very excited to hear what he has to say for himself.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Truly appreciate it. And thanks for the openness. I mean, this was such a beautiful conversation to have with you, Karabo. Truly appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Hi, Karabo Khakhau. She was joining us this afternoon or this morning into the afternoon on Conversations with Eminent Women. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. It will be up on our YouTube page for you to be able to rewatch. I'll also share that link on all my social media platforms. Remember to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Conversations with Eminent Women. We're also on TikTok and on Instagram, so please do like and share there as well. From myself, Tshego Moagi, and the full team that has been behind this particular show, a huge thank you to Sbusiso, our technical producer, Nyakalo, our content producer, and our graphic designer, Sipo. Thank you so much, team. Truly appreciate it. And thanks to you for watching once again today. We'll do it again next time. Have yourselves a fabulous weekend. It is Friday, so have a good weekend. And remember, like I always say, just be kind and protect your peace. Bye-bye.